following show may shock, disturb, and offend some viewers. The opinions, theories, and facts shared on this podcast are not widely accepted by the brainwashed masses, especially those who find dark humor offensive. Viewer discretion is advised.
Jeffrey Dahmer soaked in blood. The Unabomber blowing up. Waco, Texas, and Heaven's Gates. Aliens modified, meant for apes. JFK shot in the head by the CIA. Bigfoot and the Mothman. Son of Sam talking to dogs again. Witches, ghosts, and goblins. Mysterious noise and hauntings. Dark arts in the skull and bones. Most celebrities are probably cloned. So if you're feeling all alone, crack a beer and get stoned. I welcome you to the podcast Strange Brew. We're here to entertain you. We're here to entertain you.
It's about to get strange.
Textbook mentions Kalergi. His ideas are the guiding principles of the European Union. The belief that the peoples of Europe should be mixed with Africans and Asians to destroy our identity and create a single mud race is the bias of all community policies that aim to protect minorities, not for humanitarian reasons, but because of the directives issued by the ruthless regime that's conducting the greatest genocide in human history. The Coudenhove Kalergi European Prize is awarded every 2 years to Europeans who have excelled in promoting this criminal plan. Among these awarded with such a prize is Angela Merkel and Herman van Rompuy. The incitement to genocide is also the basis of the constant appeals of the United Nations that demands white countries accept millions of immigrants to help with low birth rates. According to a report published in January of 2000, Population Division, a review of the United Nations in New York, under the title Immigration Replacement, a Solution to the Declining and Aging Population. Europe will need, by 2025, 159 million immigrants. And of course, the United Nations is a Rothschild-funded operation. Its predecessor, the League of Nations, was funded entirely by the Rockefellers, who are nothing more than the Rothschild gophers for activity within the United States. G. Brock Chisholm, former director of the UN Agency of the World Health Organization, OMS, proves that he had learned the lesson of Kalergi when he said, quote, "What people in all places have to do is to limit of birth rates and promote mixed marriages. This aims to create a single race in a world which will be directed by a central authority."
Whoops, there it goes, generational drip.
We look around us, the Kalergi plan seems to be fully realized. With thousands upon thousands of immigrants flooding into Europe, displacing, in some cases genociding the local population, we face Europe's fusion with the Third World. The plague of interracial marriage produces each year thousands of young people of mixed race, the children of Kalergi. Under the dual pressures of misinformation and humanitarian propaganda promoted by the mainstream media and entertainment, the Europeans are being taught to renounce their origin and to renounce their national identity. The Jewish-controlled entertainment is constantly promoting interracial relations. They make it trendy by getting celebrities to date people of the opposite race. In movies and commercials, we are constantly bombarded with interracial subliminal that the average indoctrinated citizen will blindly follow. This is Mind Control 101. If you force something down people's throats and normalize it and make it cool, people will follow and you will achieve your desired goal. Who owns Hollywood? Who owns the media? Who owns these mega corporations? They just happen to be Ashkenazi Jews.
Welcome back, everybody, to the show. Welcome back. I am your host, Tomcat, aka Tom Thompson, the Raptilian. You can find all my music on all music platforms. And who am I joined by on the second part of technically the Kalergi plan?
I'm going to call myself the new age Bobby Sands. Now I think I'm gonna go on hunger strike.
Who the fuck is
Over.
Bobby Sands?
You've never heard of Bobby Sands?
No.
Oh my god! Wow.
Screen.
Should I give people little bit of a history lesson?
Sure.
No, yeah, no.
Whoever Bobby Sands is.
So, born Robert Gerard Sands, he was a member of the Provisional Irish Republican Army, also known as the IRA, who died on a hunger strike while imprisoned in HM Prison Maze in Northern Ireland. He helped plan the 1976 Balmoral Furniture Company bombing in Dunmurry, which was followed by a gun battle with the Royal Ulster Constabulary. He was arrested while trying to escape and sentenced to 14 years for firearms possession. He was the leader of the 1981 hunger strike, in which the Irish Republic prisoners protested against the removal of special category status. During the strike, he was elected to the UK Parliament as an anti-H bloc candidate. His death and those of 9 other hunger strikers was followed by a surge of IRA recruitment and activity. International media coverage brought attention to the hunger strikes and the Republican movement in general, attracting both praise and criticism. That dude, he has a crazy story.
Maybe we'll have to cover him on the show at some point. And like I said on the last episode, we covered this type of content. I want people to be aware that this is not being like used to promote hatred or racism or anything like that people will want to claim. This is just exposing things that are actually happening. The actual biggest conspiracy that we're seeing right now unfold right in front of our eyes. And it's not hatred to care for your own people and want to preserve your own cultural heritage. That is not hateful in any way. Everybody else is doing it. Go ask China. Go ask Japan. Go ask Vietnam. Go ask Asians seem to be pretty on board with protecting their national identity, who they are, their culture. Same with Indians. Hence why last time we showed, I think it was last time that we showed the clip of the Irish, the St. Paddy's Day parade that is supposed to be there to celebrate Irish culture. Indians just got in there with their drums and their cultural dances to take over that. And my problem is that we are clearly seeing a direct correlation with our destruction of our countries from within, with also this Kalergi plan of flooding people into the country that shouldn't be there, do not share anything in common with us, and actually are there to destroy us. And like I said before, I know we have fans that are all around the world that are black and Asian and white and native and all that stuff. This is not against anybody. And I really mean that. I actually have love for all people. That's not a joke. Like, I literally do have love for all people. I've had one of my best friends growing up as black. One of my best friends was native growing up. Like, I've never had anything against anybody, but I have noticed that there is a full-blown plan to destroy the Western world from within by using people as a weapon to destroy the nation from within. And this will also affect the people that are coming in here and taking over while they're bragging about doing it. And, there's clips that we're going to show about them essentially just, parading around and claiming that they're taking over and stuff like that. And it's quite clear what's happening. So I got to go in and add a clip actually right now while we're doing this. But we're going to break some stuff down. We're going to show some videos. But I just want to make, I literally, for all the show's conception, I've said everybody love everybody. And I've meant that everyone needs to get along. But at this point right now that we're facing, this idea that we're all going to collectively come together and fight against the New World Order, it's not happening. And they're using people as a weapon on purpose because they know if they flood a country, especially in the Western world, with too many people of different ethnicities, different languages, different cultures, it will actually keep everybody fighting and distracted away from looking up at the people that are really controlling the situation, really controlling why the third world stays poor and why people are in poverty and why people are killing each other. Like, this is a fact. This is what's happening.
It's like, and it's scary as well. Like, I am just looking at some of the headlines from the Irish news over the last couple of days, and here's just a couple of interesting ones. I'll just kind of run through these really quick. It just kind of gives a bit more context to, as we're talking about this live while we're recording it, this shit is still ongoing. Garage owner, or garage owner as you guys call it, says
A
Ukrainian
garage.
refugees are having car repairs paid by Irish taxpayers. A Waterford garage owner says that Ukrainian refugees are having repairs to cars, including engine replacements, paid for by the taxpayer, and that his business has received payments from the Department of Social Protection for the same. In a viral video to TikTok, which has accrued over 385,000 views at the time of this article, Paul O'Connor said that he and other dealers have also come across this issue, adding that he wanted to bring it to the public's attention and he considered it an issue of wasteful expenditure, even though his company was making money off the back of it. I'm not blaming people who come in, he said, saying he had no issues with asylum seekers who come into the country to work legally and pay taxes legally, but the system is so broken. How is this possible? This is scandalous and a complete waste of Irish taxpayers' money.
100%,
I've seen
man.
Irish people genuinely struggling to pay for repairs to their cars, and was not far right or anti-immigration to point out that payments for car repairs for people who were not paying taxes was completely wrong. He said that in one instance, a €600 bill from his workshop was paid by the Department of Social Protection, and that quotes for a new engine costing several of thousands for a premium branded car with Ukrainian registration plates were also sent in. Also, another thing to note, these cars
Yeah,
come
I'm
here
not saying
from,
it's not
you know,
just people of color either that are coming in and taking advantage of the systems that we created in these certain nations. Any intelligent person of color knows that once the white race is eliminated, it will not be good for them. For any country they flee to will become what they came from, and that's what's happening too. I want to make that point. It's just like, and even the idea of the Kalergi plan. Like Alex has been on this show. I consider one of my good friends, Billy's best friend. He's a mixed race dude. He's half black and half white. And I don't see anything wrong with that. Love who you want to love. But if this is legitimately a plan in the background to blend everybody into one race that the oligarchs and the bankers and the people with the tiny little hats can control over, well, obviously that's a problem. And obviously it's been pushed so much into the public that they are claiming, at least in their writings from what we covered last time, that they want a dumbed down mixed race people with very low IQ. And that's what they're trying to push. And I want to keep saying this, that I legitimately have nothing against other people and other races or anything like that. What white people, if you didn't know, are less than 8% of the worldwide population, and everywhere that we exist has been to have to take on this idea of multiculturalism. Nobody else is doing it at all unless they come from a country where white people literally either built and started inhabiting, or if they were native to. And that's why I'm like, we had the Indigenous and the Canadians that came together at one point. It wasn't the people who facilitated the residential schools or facilitated some of the destruction of the Indigenous culture in Canada. It was the government. So you have to realize something when we're talking about this stuff, that it all goes back to the same people that want us to keep fighting each other, that don't want us to have our own homes, that want us to consistently keep biting each other in the neck like we're rabid dogs, or ravenous dogs. Ravenous? Is that the word I want? You know what I mean?
It's wild.
I'm having a whiskey because I've had a fucking bad week.
Even on that thing I was just talking about, someone brought up about the taxation of our cars here. Our tax, or our car tax, or road tax as they call it, is quite high. And you can get prison time. You can get 5 years over not paying your road tax. And then the government came out and said, oh yeah, in relation to tax on cars, Ukrainians who have arrived in Ireland have been entitled to apply for a vehicle temporary exemption, meaning they do not have to pay any vehicle registration tax. The Minister for Finance also said that only 6 vehicles have been registered with Ukraine license plates. However, majority of Ukrainian vehicles would likely fall under the temporary exemption criteria, and other things available to Ukrainian nationals. The revenue does not hold a record of the overall number of Ukrainian vehicles brought into Ireland. So there you go again. It's just you're telling me you have 6 on record, but you're telling me you don't keep record.
our money is being used to destroy us. And and people don't understand this, and I want to make this clear again, because I don't want people to look at this as oh, these guys are white supremacists and Nazis or racist, because that's these terms that they use to try to shut down people exposing this stuff. Like, my aunt is literally Jamaican, and she came to this country a long time ago and blended in and assimilated with the culture, and she's a Christian. And yes, what happened with the indigenous, I've covered this many times. I just covered this on the Patreon of talking about some of this stuff, is like, we can't change the past, but we can make the future. And soon you guys will hear an episode that I did with a Native American dude from Canada and Alberta, where we talked about bringing the whites and indigenous together to fight against this stuff, because we're also being all used against each other. But the people that came here and assimilated, and in Canada and a lot of the European nations were founded on Christianity. As a fact, as much as I'm not religious, I lean more towards Christianity, of the idea of like the beliefs that Christians have, and upholding morals and ethics of treating the way that you should treat people. I will treat people with respect until they don't treat me with respect, right? And I just want to make that clear. Like, I have literally, like, through marriage, black family. And I want people to understand that this is just meant to raise awareness about the things that are happening and how this is being done to not just destroy white people, to destroy us all. And, and I wanted to say this. I've had a rough week. Like, I wanted to be honest about this stuff. To be awake and aware gets tough on people. I've battled depression my entire life. I've put myself through hell and back. I've had a lot of crazy experiences in my life that led me down some very dark roads, and I had to cope in various different ways. And, some of this stuff, to be awake and aware of all this stuff gets tough on people. And to know that, like, hey, this is all being used to destroy us all, no matter what you think, or if whatever you've been polarized by political propaganda or conditioned or brainwashed to think, this is all being used against all of us. And that's like, I'm getting like, I pay attention to a lot of stuff that's going on in the world. I have a little girl coming into this world, and I don't want her to be a minority in the countries that my fucking ancestors built, man. Canada is not the land. It's not the birds. It's not any of that. It's the people. Yeah. It's literally the people. Like, these nations, they're not the land or the infrastructure, or definitely not the government. I did a video that's talking about Canada. It's not on Instagram yet, but I do TikToks where I try to expose some of the stuff. Canada is the people. A nation is the people. The idea of the society, a homogenic society, it sounds gay, but it means essentially everything is has commonalities, that we're all like connected through one thing. Our commonalities of what we believe and think and who we are as a people. Like, I want people to understand, it's hard to watch when you knew it was crumbling right in front of your eyes. It's true, man. Yeah. And once they reset the population to 1 billion, as they want to do, half will be Chinese. Yes. So everybody that's listening to this audio will go live for a lot of these more controversial episodes. But I wanted just to say that, like, it gets tough. And everyone's battling these demons inside their minds, and especially if you're like us, where you're like aware of the stuff that's going on and you pay attention to it, it gets tough. It gets tough on you, and thinking about like how I grew up, and then thinking like my daughter, and I hope to have as many kids as possible. Like, I try to convince the wife to have 3, but at least I want 2, and I would have 7, 8, 9, 10 if I could. I would. I would have as many kids as I possibly can. I know. Is the background a green screen? Yes. So because I'm having a kid brought into this world, I had to get rid of my podcast studio. So I just took pictures of it, but it keeps fucking moving. Once I get in the next room, that
if you had 7 kids, you'd be in the wardrobe recording.
I know. Well, if we were in different times, it would be a different type of place. Look there.
You know what? I would too, though.
It's like room.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, like, I always wanted to have multiple kids, but then I had one kid in a really bad situation, and then it just like made everything miserable. But yeah, I would be of the same mind of you, where I would have been like, yeah, let me have like fucking 10 Irish kids, and continue.
If I could, and that's a. Oh, now it's making it worse. What?
But
yeah, I'm
definitely
trying with the
agree
stupid
with that.
green screen. It'll be pinned to a wall in the next room, so it shouldn't be moving. It's on like a little stand thing. Oh, now it's even worse. I'm so mad. But like this idea, like look at all the shit on my walls because I've been like all the stuff that was on it is like I have to like scrape everything down and set everything up. But like and this is this idea where I've seen comment. God, this is bugging me.
What's causing it? It's only on one side. It's like it's glowing.
Because there's like ripples in it. If there's ripples in it, I can see if I can fix that. And like people, I've seen people be like, white people have more kids or whatever, right? And there, I'm gone. I'm just part of the green screen now.
Bye.
And I'm like, how? Okay, what? First of all, most people can't afford stuff, and the only reason that people in the third world breed the way that they do, is because they're like essentially right. They don't have as much education.
Can we do a little bit of maths for a second? Now that you mentioned people not being able to afford shit, right? I just want to see something, what the conversion, because obviously I won't have any context to this. I'd like you to be able to tell me. So I'm gonna change over euro into Canadian dollars, right?
Yeah,
so
dude,
is 657,000 Canadian dollars a lot of money?
$57,000?
657,000.
Sure.
Like
600? Is that no, not really. No.
657,000.
No.
No?
Not really.
Okay.
Oh, 600? Okay, I'm like sorry, I'm just like I'm playing with the green screen. 600,000 essentially. Yeah, okay, yeah, you could you could not buy a house. You could
I was just going to say cuz that's nearly half €500,000, and like there was an article posted I think it was yesterday.
Most houses are $700,000 for like a shitty bungalow.
Yeah, so no, that's the point I was going to make. There was this young couple who've been saving up, they're going to have their first kid, and they have €500,000 saved, and they're like, we can't buy a house. I have $500,000 and I can't buy a fucking house. I can't even buy a squat. I can't
That's
buy
what's happening in Canada, man. There was like for 300,000, there was a tiny little house, like a shack, pretty much. Like in Toronto, you need at least $1 million to buy a shack. Like there was legitimately a shack on sale for like $800,000, and that's what's crazy. They don't want us to exist the way that we do. That's why they're doing this. That's why all this is being done. So like in the third world, not gonna lie, like a lot of them are just scraping by, not really making a lot of money, don't have intelligence. Like it is a fact. Like you can dispute it as much as you want, but the average IQ, the collective IQ in India is 76. Okay. In Canada, if you're under 80, you are considered special needs. So when these people are arguing with you on the internet, don't argue with them. They're literally retarded. And also like there's places in Africa where their IQ is 68. That is less than a gorilla. And that's not racist. That's because of the environment that they're raised in. They're not educated the way that we are. And the thing is, so they just breed out of control because they're mostly like there's some places, especially in Africa, where they're just like surviving on foraging for food and stuff like that, or living off the white farmers that are literally facilitating pretty much 85% of the crops and the agriculture that is feeding Africa, and not to mention all the billions of dollars that we sent to, as we talked about last time. And like, I'm not saying that black people are stupid. I'm saying that in certain rural parts of third world countries, they have really low IQs. That is a fact. You can't deny it. If you do, you're also retarded. So like, I want to make people understand that this is what's happening. You need to realize what's being done to you. And it doesn't matter what color you are. They're doing this to us all. And they hope to enslave us all under a one world digital currency and a one world government. This is a real thing. So yeah, they will own nothing and be happy. They will own. I already said it now recently. I was like, you already do own nothing. You can't afford a fucking house. You barely afford food.
Like you don't own anything. Like I bought my car outright in cash. Funny story. I don't own that car. If anything happens, that car can be just taken away. If I do something wrong or if I miss my tax date, they can just leave me on the side of the road and take my car.
I've said this about like, so you buy a house, right? You spend decades, you're like essentially retired and you just own it. You're like 65, 70, and you just finally own your house. Guess what? You don't fucking own it. The government does. You don't
And you
pay
have
your
to pay
property
property tax.
tax.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't pay your property tax, they'll take your house. Meanwhile, I'm always like, but yet there's potholes in the road. There's
Also,
old,
here's another funny thing.
you're
There's a
waiting
guy
at the
called
hospital. I'm fucking angry right now.
there's a guy called Simon Squibb, and he's an English businessman, but he's really
Terrible name.
I know, yeah, right, I know. But he has this whole thing where he like makes people's dreams happen, kind of. So I think he has so much money and has had so much money for so long that he's just kind of like bored. So now what he does is he goes out all over the world and just walks the streets, bumps into people, and literally just asks them, "Have you got a dream?" And if somebody gives him like a proper answer where they're like, "Oh, I do my own
want to live
podcast.
off of podcasting."
Yeah, I have my own podcast. I do this, I do that. I've got music. He'll actually help you he'll fund you to like
That's
try
how
and
Elon
live out
Musk
your
is.
dream.
Elon Musk could change the world 10 times over.
Now,
And he's
this guy seems super
Jeff
cool, but the
Bezos.
point I was making is somebody asked him about mortgages and about buying houses and stuff. And he was like, I have only ever bought one house in my life. And that was only recently because my wife wanted somewhere for us and the kids to live in the countryside. Other than that, I have always just rented. And the guy was like, but I've always been led to believe that renting is like dead money. And he's like, okay, so let's picture this. You get a 40-year mortgage. You spend your entire life breaking your body to get to the point where you eventually pay off your mortgage. If you don't have to remortgage, if nothing happens, you get to 66 or 68 at retirement age. Your body is completely broken. You might have 10 or 15 years left to live. And then he's like, okay, so what happens is then you've done all that for that. He was like, now the rebuttal is people will say, well, I do it for my kids to leave something to them. You forget when you die and they inherit the house, they have to pay 33% inheritance tax.
Inheritance tax, like that's
all that shit that
yeah.
you've worked for is only rented bullshit to keep you in the system of the mouse wheel.
And this is why people need to realize this is not just being done to white people. Even we are being targeted specifically because of who we are and what we're connected to and why and how we've built pretty much. It's true. You can't deny it. If you're like out there like, nah, it's not true. No, we've built like 80% of civilization. Yeah, there's some bloodshed along the way. There's been bloodshed in like the first people that colonized another like place, like not in a country, but another place was Africans. So like the truth matters. And I was going to like this guy's cover. You don't even own your body in mind at this point. People have been so conditioned. Yeah. I'll bring that up in a sec. You don't even understand what's being done to you. And they're taxing us into death and poverty. And I'd rather own like a house. But the thing about it, we talked about this last time. Our grandparents could like pay off a house within 3 fucking years. Like our parents could maybe do like, 20 years or something like that. Or they're making you so you live under their rule, under their boot. That's how this is existing. Is like how we exist.
Own their houses. None of them yet.
Wow.
And like both of them are well into their 50s now. The grandparents own their houses, but that's like a different generation. And like I used to have to, explain to my grandfather, like, I was like, how much did you buy this house for? And he was like, 15,000. And I'm like, you bought a 4-bedroom house with a converted attic, 2 basically like a kind of a garage shed kind of thing built onto it, with an extension to the kitchen, with like a utility room and all this extra shit, and a 2-car like driveway for 15,000. For 15,000, I couldn't even afford a 13-year-old shitty Volkswagen.
I know. And that's what's crazy. Like that's why I want to make it clear to everybody what's going on. We'll get in the melting pot stuff in a sec.
I just wanted to bring this up, right? This is infuriating to me, and it just shows you there is no like, some people think, oh, they're only targeting big cities, or if you live in like Dublin or Toronto or somewhere, or New York, you're going to be, if you move out to a little town or a smaller place, it won't get there. This will just explain how much it's getting there. So local people in a small Gaeltacht village of Carna in Connemara, so the Gaeltacht in Ireland is Irish speaking. They speak like the native tongue. Really rural Ireland, like, kind of a blip on the map. They're vowing to hold a 24/7 protest at the Carna Bay Hotel to stop its use as a migrant centre, housing 84 persons, saying that a continuous watch would also be kept on the 3 main routes into the village. Now, people might say, oh, it's only 84 people. When you read in a bit more, though, I'm not even sure if there's 84 people in this little town. So, last night, a large number of local people gathered at the hotel and believed that a bus from Dublin was on its way to the village. While the bus did not materialize, protesters said they will now operate a rota to prevent the hotel from becoming an iPass center. The only hotel in the village, it's of significant cultural importance. It has been used to accommodate Ukrainians for the past 3 years, but locals say that it was always their understanding that this would only be a temporary arrangement. This week, it said that the government should be taking blah, 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 a load of bullshit from the government. So, yeah, look, so listen to this, right? iPass Center proposed for hotel in Gaeltacht village in Carna. We already have no facilities. We literally have no footpaths in the village, no streetlights, and only 1 bus a day to take us to Galway City.
That's what I keep saying to people. I'm like, so when you drive on a pothole, and when you are waiting in a hospital, when you're all these things that are happening to us, you have to understand, like, your tax money is going into nothing. You're just a slave. That's why if you're watching this and you're a fan of the show, and check out my music. I just released a new album. I have a song called Tax Slave where I talk about this stuff, where I'm like, you were just taxed into death and poverty. That's it. Your tax money doesn't go to benefit you. It doesn't go to benefit your children. It doesn't go to benefit the roads. I drive home from work and there's just holes in the roads all the time. And the idea of property tax is you pay property tax for the municipality, for the area that you live in, to fix your roads, to build a fucking school, to have something worth your money. But no, they're siphoning off your tax money through the property tax, through the federal tax, through income tax, which is only supposed to last past the war. Now, income tax was for the war, and how it's been 100 years now, almost at this point. It's almost 100 years.
It's you know what the most infuriating part is. We've gotten to the point now where they no longer even bother to like try and keep up a facade and lie. It's literally just like they're like, oh yeah, we're using your tax money to pay for Ukrainians. What?
Oh yeah, or sex changes in Uganda. That's happening in Canada, stuff like that. And at the end of the day, I was going to mention this too. What did our ancestors die for? And people like someone was like, no, fucking Chinese died. No,
for some grown man with hairy legs and high heels to be dancing on their graves.
Yes, white people. The majority of the people who died in World War I and II were white. That's a fact. I can show you the statistics of how that breaks down. If you count in the Bolshevik Revolution and what happened in the Soviet Union and Russia, where 40 million Christians were just unalived. The numbers are skewed. It could be more or less.
Say something like that's probably going to be mad controversial for a certain group of people, and I just passed the point. It's just what I believe, and I just don't care anymore. One thing that really, really bothers me is when I seen somebody on TikTok, some bitch on TikTok, and she was comparing like some dude who's like he, she, they, them, whatever, right? Came out as gay or something like that, or he wears women's clothes, but he's gay, but he's not, he's a woman, whatever, right? Do whatever you want, right? That's fine. She likened it to the bravery that guys that got blown to pieces in world wars, or like soldiers that were sent to Afghanistan with no clue what they were fighting for and got blown to pieces. These
people are so disconnected from what reality actually is and what these kids had to go through because they were children a lot of times. And Jeremy was just talking about this, and I found this interesting, is like one of the things a man's brain doesn't fully develop till they're 25, right? Part of that development is the recognition of fear. So that's why they send, 18 to 25-year-olds to war, because they don't recognize that fear. I thought there's a kid I work with, Simon. I would just joke that he like has like the 40-yard stare. I was like, I was making him do it to Nundan, one of the Indian dudes we work with that I like. And like I said, I work with Indian dudes. I like them. We're friends. But I don't think you should take over my entire country. And I don't think we should let in millions of you. Canada should stay white. And you will see. They're destroying the country from within. They're destroying the trucking industry and all that stuff. I've had friends of all
But like,
walks of life, and I just want to say, he was doing the I was getting like, you're doing the whatever 40-yard stare. We were like just joking around because I was like, he was all covered in dirt and stuff, and he looked like he just came out of like he's been in the war or whatever, right? And I was like, we were joking about this stuff, and I was like, the things that they had to do and endure, and he does some dangerous stuff at work because we work at a metal shop or whatever, and I'm like, I was like, remember that when I was telling you that your brain doesn't, he's like, I think he's like 18, 19. I was like, remember I said your like brain doesn't fully develop, especially with recognizing danger till you're like 25. I'm like, this is one of the examples. I'm like moving a tube and he's standing on it. And I'm like with a strap and stuff like that, like a massive, like very heavy metal tube on a forklift. And I was like, yeah, that's that pattern that's that recognition of fear that you don't have any right now.
It's just like, I mean, there's very little that any of us, even people who are like awake to some of this stuff, will ever experience in our lives that is on any sort of level with
Seeing
some
friends
some of
blown to
the
pieces.
some of the stuff that people had to go through. So I knew a chick who was a medic in the US military, and she was a cousin of one of my like best friends when I was younger. And she came home for like maybe 2 months, and she brought the guy who she was dating at the time. They had met overseas in fucking Afghanistan or Iraq or somewhere like that, and that's how they got together. And then they stayed together. They went back to the States together. They came to Ireland for 2 months together, and they kind of done their whole thing. But I remember like we brought that dude out several nights, and like he got pretty wasted, and like the shit that was coming out of his mouth, dude, was scary. And
I'm
then
sure all the stuff that he's got
yeah,
blocked in his head, man.
and to look at him then, and like he's doing it kind of what you said, like that like 1,000-yard stare where he's like, yeah, and he's like, do you know what it feels like when like you've got like your best friend and you see him get blown to pieces? I'm like, I no idea.
That's
Like,
why I'm like, when people are trying to call it like Jeremy and like, do you have any idea what that guy went through? His friends died in Afghanistan. Like in the things that he had to endure, all these soldiers, right?
This dude was telling me like,
and our ancestors that went through these wars. My grandfather's brother was like in the war, and he survived. Essentially, he was supposed to be on the front port. I don't know what, I'm not a sailor, of the ship, and it got fucking hit. And they switched places, and he would have died. And he essentially swam out into the ocean and had to like survive on his own. Like the things that they had to endure,
yeah,
man, like is not
like,
comprehensible to people that
we
are
have,
existing today.
we have no context. Like this dude was telling me, they got put in, and this has been so long ago, I can't remember. Like he told us the names and he told us everything. But like they were saying they were up in some sort of a watchtower on their encampment or whatever.
Mhm.
And he was like, when we were brought there, like he was like super young at the time. He was like 18, 19. So he was like, we had no idea. We signed up for the military. We were
Your
told
children. Your
yeah,
children.
well, and he was like,
being
to be honest with you, he was like, we were essentially brainwashed. I thought I was defending America, and like, all these like brown guys are all the bad guys. They're all terrorists. They're all bombers. And then he's like, then we get there and we go through some of these villages, and like, I don't see any men. All I see is like kids and women, and like all the men have been killed. And like, you're being told like, oh, massive threat here. And he was like, he said they were put in some place anyway, and they were in this watchtower, him and this other dude, and he was like, we were told like there's no like the level of threat here. He explained it in like their military terms, but like the level of threat was basically like nothing. It was like a grade 0, where like there's no real issue, but obviously we still have to carry on as if we're in a high threat zone. And he was like, would you believe a couple of nights later, the dude I was in the watchtower with got shot in the fucking head by a sniper.
Mhm.
Just got his head just blown off, like the
Yeah.
top of his head just blown away. And he was like, and like, we had no idea. And then you're being fed all this shit about like, oh yeah, that's like the brown guy that's like, they're in the hills. All.
And think about it, right? Like, who facilitated all these wars? If you don't know yet, there's no point of telling you, because I can prove all this stuff. So I was going to bring up this clip the last time, but I want to show, like, this is a very good, and like, this is very, like, the idea of like keeping nations for our own people and stuff like that. Like I mentioned, I can't remember his name at the moment, but this is very This is a very good interpretation, a very good way to state what we're about to show. As I said, this show, it's a rough battle to go through some of this shit, and to have been awake as long as I have since I was like 13 or 14. I've been aware that something is seriously fucking wrong here. So yeah, of course.
The worst part is as well, and I feel like you're probably much like me. Like, I love people. I love meeting different people and like hearing people's stories and life stories and what they're into, and like I often hear you saying stuff about work and like different people with different backgrounds, and you're like, oh yeah, this guy, we were talking about this and he said this, and I'm like, I love that. So this is nothing to do with like, oh, I hate everyone that's not like Irish or white or whatever. Like, that's all just bullshit. It's more about like, do you not realize like the problem here, like the overarching problem? This isn't specific to me or to you or whatever. This includes everybody on the planet.
I know. We got a couple clips to play, and I got to break down this stuff. So I mean, this is a very good point. And like, for all the people, I've actually pointed people towards Jake Shields' podcast, and they've been starting to listen. So this is very important, man.
And I'm not saying that the people of other races are like, I hate them and that they're all like bad people or something. Obviously, they're fine people from all groups, but that's not the point. It's like, a good analogy to use is a family, right? Because basically what an ethnic group or a race ultimately is an extended family. So I can meet fine people, right? But should they come and live in my house? Should I like basically force my children? I don't have children yet, but say I've got 3 children. Should I force 2 of my children to sleep in bunk beds and make space in one room so I could move this nice guy that I just met at the pub into my house?
Not.
Well, why do you hate him? Why are you discriminating against him? Well, he's not in my family, so why should he live in my house? It's pretty basic. Like, I have a house for my family. He should have a house for his family. I don't hate his family. I don't want to attack his family. But why should my family home be subdivided up to shove people from other families in? Is that taking care of my family? No. So that's my view on it. And secondarily as well, when it comes to, you can, on a personal level, have good relations. Like, I've had friends from other races in my life. I grew up in a multicultural society. But when you're thinking about it on the level of politics, obviously these fractures are becoming real. Like, there's of all these countries across the West where they're running this experiment, every single one of their political systems, or our political systems now, is completely dominated by racial antagonism and debates over racism, debates over immigration, debates over, is this culture compatible with our country or not? In Europe, they've got the Islam problem, because predominantly a lot of the immigrants going there are Islamic, and Islam is an ancient enemy of Europe. Like, Muslims have been trying to invade, and they actually have invaded Europe multiple times through the centuries and had to be fought back in like gallant wars over hundreds and hundreds of years. And now they're just going to be all invited in, and now they're doing like terrorist attacks all the time, and Europeans are supposed to just like accept that and just hand over their continent to this foreign element that is completely hostile. It's a totally different religion, totally different standards around almost everything, really, like culturally speaking. That's obviously completely unacceptable. Like, why would you voluntarily accept that for your country?
And this is what I've said a lot recently is like, yeah, you flood the country with people with different ethnicities, different languages, different religious beliefs. It's only going to cause division. There's been, like, I just was watching stuff about, there's been stabbings in Austria, in Germany, all these stabbings of foreigners. And I wanted to, you have a picture with Jake Shields?
Yeah.
That's fucking sweet. I love Jake Shields, dude. Yeah. Yo, that's so cool. I actually think he's like one of my favorite people.
That was in 2012.
Wow, that's so crazy, dude. Jake Shields is the shit, man.
That was 2012. I met him.
Wow, that's so cool. I love the dude. Because he's trying to bring awareness to some of the stuff. And also come at it like I'm trying to is be like, hey, there's problems here we need to address. That is it, man. It has nothing to do with people. And I wanted to bring this up. So look at this. All right, here, white population under age 35, and this is in 2021 or 2020, 2021. Here, I'll take off this. Total population of Canada is 59.6% white. The United States is 47.2. And you think like Trump's gonna fucking save you. And you have to understand something, right? Of why I'm showing this is what happens when we are the minority. Do you think that the Indians or people from foreign countries are going to represent the Canadian people, even if you are black or Asian or whatever? The people that have been here and assimilated for like either there's been an Asian population and blacks that actually fled, as I said, that fled slavery. Fleed? No, it's fled slavery, and stuff like that to come to Canada. And there's been, the 98% of the population was white until the 70s. And we've talked about this last time. I'm not going to repeat myself to try to sell people on this idea of what's happening to them. But like there has been different cultures and people here for now at least a couple of generations, and now like especially some of the black population that has been here for generations, they're bringing in also people from other countries, and they're telling you that they're as Canadian as you are. You know what I mean? And like are part of this national identity, which they aren't. Like, and there is, like I said, there's been now Asians and black people that are paying attention to this stuff and doing videos about it. But like, yeah, like, there's one guy actually, like he's for PPPR. I don't like any politician, never going to. I think they're all parasites. But he has at one of his rallies, and he was been able to essentially get one of like the media cards where he could able to be one of the press essentially. And he's a black dude that goes around and asks people questions about what he thinks the serious problems are within Canada. A lot of people are saying mass immigration. He's done videos where he talks about like, oh, like this guy's like, I'm Indian and I think there's too many Indians here because his family, may have been here since the 80s or whatever. And he was born here. This is going to affect everybody. I don't think people understand that. And that it's not just white people, but it is that we are being specifically targeted, and eventually it will affect everybody.
I was trying to find the TikTok video I seen the other day, and I thought I had saved it to send it to you, but I mustn't have. But it was a dude, and he was somewhere in India. I can't remember the specifics of it. He said the name of the town. He said,
"Oh, I think I
the city or whatever and everything, right?" And he's walking around, and he's like filming himself. He's obviously some kind of vlogger. I didn't actually look into it too much.
Yeah, I've seen
And
videos like this.
he was like, they're literally burning human bodies on the streets in like stacks. They're like stacked up on pallets, and they're just lighting them on fire, and people are just walking around as if like it's whatever. And then like he's like walking along, he's filming like his feet walking, and there's like rubble and fucking rubbish and like shit all over the place. And then he literally goes, "Oh, great, that's literally human shit, lumps of human shit just in the middle of the street." And like everyone's just carrying on as if like it's normal. And he was like, "This, like I come here and it feels like, a different, like I've landed on a different planet." And he was like, "This is going to be your fucking doorstep."
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They're like, it's a problem. Collectively as a people, they're kind of a problem. And that's the truth. There's billions of them. They have very low IQs. Not all of them, but a lot of them. And they're like, well,
I'm just seeing people say as well, "Oh, well, that's your doctors and your nurses." I don't want to hear that. If we look at the percentages wise there, right? Yes, I'm not saying that there isn't some extremely smart people that come from those places. And
there's billions of them. Of course, there would be.
They make something of themselves. But like, if you've got billions and billions of people and a couple of thousand of them actually become surgeons and like doctors and nurses and stuff, that's
a lot of them scam their way into that, though.
A lot of them do. It's a very small, even if they were all legit. Like, dude, even if you had 100,000 of them out of billions of people, like that percentage is so minute that like
so India alone has siphoned over $100 billion from Canada alone, not to mention the Chinese, also billions of dollars, even through scamming senior citizens, as I said before. Imagine going after the most vulnerable population of a country and choosing to scam them. And that's even like there are some
they do God's work. They scam the scammers.
Yeah. I know. Some of those are very funny. Even Derek from Diagonal, he's like posted videos. Like there's some security guards. There's two different security guards in Canada. And it's like a guy, he's talking to this white security guard, older dude, maybe in his like 40s or 50s. And he's like, "I'm going to steal this." And he's like, no. And he's like, "No, you can't do that. I'm going to go tell I'm gonna go tell people. And then it cuts to like him in a Walmart, and there's a Sikh security guard, and he's like, I'm gonna go steal this. Is that okay with you? And he's like, yeah, go ahead. Doesn't even give a fuck, because their culture is built on scamming and stealing from people. And people are like, that's not true. No, it is true. I can prove it. They're also
Unfortunately, it is.
Their trucking industry. They like Red Dice, which I just started kind of looking into. That's actually kind of a great channel on Rumble and stuff like that. I've seen clips from them. That's that one chick. I didn't realize it was her, but that one chick that was like, we're the real minority. The one I played on last episode about exposing kind of, hey, we have to let all these people into our little fragmented piece of land that is not even the majority of the white population. You remember that clip, right? She's from Red Dice. I didn't know that. So before we get too far into this, we've all heard about the term melting pot. It means mixing of different races and cultures into one monolithic group, forming the new world and new man. The term was popularized in 1908 by a play called The Melting Pot, written by a British-born Jewish Zionist. His name was Israel Zangwill. I'm gonna bring out his parents. Were Jewish immigrants from Ireland. Or no, what the fuck was that? Yours?
Yeah, I must have hit something there.
What was that? Something.
I don't know. What was that?
Art, man. Okay, what's this guy's name?
Let me see which one did I hit. Sorry, it wasn't that one. Oh, here we go.
Whitey. Yeah, I don't like that.
Be a record scratch.
What is that supposed to be?
A record scratch.
Oh, I hate it. I don't like it. It sounds like a toot. Okay, let's see this British author. No, he's a Jewish author. Give me a fucking break. And during this play, we'll get into it. Winston Churchill clapped. He loved it. He thought it was great. Look at this guy. Tell me this guy. What does he look like? It's like looks like the most typical Jewish guy I've ever seen.
He looks like so right. Everybody look at him for a second, right? Try and remember his face, visualize it. I don't know if Tom can do this. If Tom can open another tab and type in Pepper American Horror Story.
Oh yeah. 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 How did you come to that? Yes. It is weird.
Just like that. It's just like that with a wig on.
Yeah, right there. People are like, that's anti-Semitic. They're not Semitic. They're actually from like a lot of people have liked our Khazarian mafia.
Really
Look, there's an interpretation of his draw. Look at his like hook nose. Wait, and this is on Britannica. Israel Zangwill, Jewish writer. Look at like how they drew him.
That's a humorist. Is that a comedian?
Humorous playwright. Yeah, everyone Jewish is funny. I saw when I was looking up his name, it was like, why are Jewish people so funny? And it's like, they're not really. They just know how to. Yeah, it's like his name is Israel. Like you're like, oh, I'm the chosen people, though, right? So it's fucking Israel Zangwill. The play has come to represent the importance of mass non-European immigration into America, which up till 1965 was over 90% white. Almost every country, Canada, Australia, Ireland, Scotland, Sweden, Norway. Like I can go through all the list. Germany, like all of these nations have the only ones that have accepted this idea of multiculturalism. And it's funny that people bring up like this idea that like white people don't have a culture. We have more culture than any other ethnicity on earth. And it's because of like at one point it was Germania, this like huge connection to everybody, but then everything got fragmented and people developed their own cultures as white people. So that's why you have Ireland and Scotland have existed for thousands of years. But you have these splits in Austria and some of these places where they fragmented and actually developed and created their own culture. Sometimes hundreds of years ago, if not thousands of years ago, right? So, and mixing them into a melting pot. And the original idea of a melting pot is everyone blends into one thing. which makes it cohesive, a cohesive, like homogenic society of people that all share commonalities of their beliefs, their traditions, their customs, but that's not what it is. You see this in America, man. You see this in Canada and Australia, and now in Ireland and Scotland, everywhere else that didn't ask for this, didn't vote for this. The idea of the melting pot of different cultures and ethnicities and the sameness to create a new man, quotations, has been spoken of in the 18th and 19th century. But the production of the 1908 play, it became popularized, known as the melting pot, that is spoken of today. It is said that in 1908, the play was essentially, the idea of the play was of mixing people from different European nations into a new America, and to extend this to what happened prior to 1965 and the Open Immigration Act, which in Canada, it happened in America. It was called the Open Immigration Act, and in Canada, it was just called the Immigration Act. It's the same thing. They did in the 60s. Canada and America did it in lockstep, and I'm guarantee if I looked into Ireland or to Australia did the same fucking thing. And they since then they've kind of blended this in. It was vigorously campaigned by Jewish groups. Since 1965, the term melting pot has meant the mixing of all races from all around the world into one this unified unconformed group of a racial identity, the post-racial society. This is not only happening in America, but every nation that had once a white majority population. The pursuit of racial diversity in white nations is the pursuit of the end of the real global racial diversity for the benefit of one group of people who sees themselves as reigning supreme over all. And we all know who that is. One of the characters in the 1908 play says, "America's God." Here goes play some tunes. I'll do this. I have so many dumb. America is God. Crucible, where all the races of Europe are melting and reforming. Germans, Frenchmen, Irishmen, Englishmen, Jews, and Russians. Yeah, Jews. Yeah, sure. Into a crucible. Crucible. With you all, God is making the American. So it's like, and obviously, like, it's so funny. People are like, yay, Trump and all this stuff. I was like, yo, he's owned by the very same people that want to destroy America from within by blending into a not cohesive society, you know? So this is what Israel Zangwill really wanted to put across his play this was a precursor for what happened in 1965 and opening Americans' borders to the whole world. It's just a coincidence that Zangwill, I guess it's literally Zangwill, a Jewish Zionist, and Jews who campaigned for the Open Immigration Act advocated for mixing races and culture. Let's take a closer look at Israel Zangwill. Zanger was a Fabian socialist, advocate of a world government. And that's why it's so funny, where it's like, it's not a new world order, it's a Jew world order. He also was very supportive of the Bolshevik Revolution, which
Can't say that, man.
Yeah. And slaughtered up to 40 million white Christians. That's a fact. Benjamin Netanyahu writes of Zangwill in his book, A Place Among Nations, Israel and the World. And this is in 1993. And he talks about the great courts of the day accorded him in ways that blinded Herzl to the primacy of winning Jewish adherence to Zionism. Intellectuals these intellectuals were celebrated. They celebrated the English writer, but he's a Jewish writer, Israel Zangwill, who used his talents to influence and spread the creed of Zionism in Britain, what at time was the foremost world power. And it's like read more. I can actually have an article I can click on. A revealing quote of Israel Zangwill: No American has not yet arrived. He is only in a crucible. I tell you, he will be fused with all races, perhaps the coming Superman. Like, what are you talking about, man? Jesus, Charlie's freaking out. Israel Zangwill, being a Fabian socialist, links close links with George Bernard Shaw and one Israel Cohen, author of the Racial Program for the 20th Century, a book that is, Jesus, Charlie, calm the fuck down, is said to be a hoax by the usual suspects. But the proof of which can be seen in your nations today. The only remaining quote from this book is the following. I'm going to say the word Negroid just so everyone realizes that this is not me saying it. Where's that one? We must realize that our party's most powerful weapon is racial tensions. By propounding into the consciousness of the dark races for centuries, they will become oppressed by whites. We can mold them into a program of the Communist Party. In America, we will aim for the subtle victory. While inflaming the Negroid minority against the whites, we will endeavor to instill the white guilt complex for exploiting of the Negroes. We will help aid the Negroes to rise to prominence in every walk of life and the professions and the world of sports and entertainment. With this prestige, the Negro will be able to intermarry with the whites and to begin the process which will deliver America to our cause. And it's not me saying that word, it's them, okay? And listen to this. Listen to what he said.
Sure it is.
Listen to what he said, though, man. That they literally, and this was in 1957, that we're going to use the plight of the black people against white people and make them believe that essentially that they're oppressed by the white man and use this to facilitate the destruction of the white race. They're literally admitting it.
I seen something, I can't remember who it was, I had seen talking about on the show. I think it was Alex Jones.
Like that's like crazy to me. And they literally in the 50s admit to like putting essentially black people into sports and entertainment roles to take over that's fucking crazy. That was in 1957 that they said this. And look at the America now. Look at the world now. Look at the white world, the Western world now. Isn't that crazy? Like, once you start looking at this stuff, you're like, what the fuck? Like, we will aid the black people to rise in prominence in every walk of life, in every profession, in the world of sports and entertainment. Kanye's probably like, I fucking knew it. You know what I mean? It's like they did this on purpose.
What do you think the big uptick has been in recent years? Like I definitely feel like since COVID, like there's been
switching on the New World Order.
Yeah, but there's been a massive uptick like in all of this stuff, and like a lot of people who I think weren't really privy to it or never paid attention to it, now even those people are starting to go, okay, there's something fucking weird going on. Why do you think the last few years has been like now is the perfect time to do all this?
Do you know why? Because I think that COVID I think it did the opposite of what they wanted. Same with the internet and stuff like that. It essentially turned on the switch in people's head to start noticing things. And that's why they call it the noticer. Like, it's noticing patterns. If you don't have pattern recognition of what is going on in the world and not see similar patterns through similar groups of people, then like you're not that smart. And like I said, I want this to be clear. Like, I literally grew up with black and native and Asian friends most of my life. So like of course where I grew up with was majority white, but I had friends that were of different colors, and they were not of different cultures because they were Canadian. They were here for generations. They assimilated, their families did long ago. But that, to me, when I was writing down this article, that is crazy to me that they're admitting this stuff. Like, now what, like 70 years ago, like admitting that they're going to do this and they're going to blend everyone together. They're going to use black people against white people.
Kind of scary that it's so blatant, right?
Yeah. There was no internet. Good point. There's no internet when they're writing about these plans. It's very true. I want to get through this so we can get out of this article because I have clips to play. This book is now out of print, of course, and the existence of the author, Israel Cohen. This guy is very important in the role of all of this stuff that is going on.
Is that him with the two hook hands?
No, that's is it? It may be. Wow. He's like, the Holocaust, it got me. Jesus Christ, that's definitely him.
Oh, that is terrifying.
What happened to his hands?
That's exactly what I would expect a supervillain to look like.
Wounded during the 6-day war. Maybe they cut off her hands because you wouldn't stop stealing. So it's gonna be 50
He looks
years.
like Mason Verger from Hannibal.
Jesus. The elites have controlled over the boomers. Yeah, it's very true, man. I know it's because of things. Joe Rogan is starting to switch on that light bulb, but he's never going to. Yeah, this guy's very dangerous in regard to Zionism. Israel Cohen was one of the people that actually influenced Mao's revolution in China. That's why people are like, not communism is not strictly Jewish, and it's like, but it is though. If you look at it from the outside, it is. It is. What's his name? Zeppetai Levy, whatever the hell Karl Marx's real name was. Leon Trotsky. Like they're like 80% of the people facilitating the communist revolution in Russia, we'll get to at some point, were Jewish. And that's not saying that, like I said last time, Jewish people are also being used against this. Judaism is communism. Every ism is that. Feminism, communism, transgenderism.
The unfortunate part is like a lot of those people don't even realize, and they just think like that your neighbor and the other guy is your problem.
Yes.
It's like, no, they're actually just using you. You're just a pawn, like a tool and all this. They're laughing at you as well.
So obviously, like Israel Cohen, the author is denied, even though he was one of the founders of the Fabian socialism in Britain. The Fabian socialism in Britain wrote many books. The foreword in the book by Israel Zangwill called Schronznors stands for the reason that the existence of such book, a racial program for the 20th century, would blow wide open the real agenda of the mass non-white immigration. Hence, they need to deny it and deny its existence. Sorry, I kept this up too long. In 2 years, it took 2 years for the existence of this book and the author to be denied after all books have been seized and printing had been stopped because they don't want people. Like, I bet you, like in Israel, they all have a copy of this book, but they didn't want the mass population to know what was going on. The book was said to be a humanitarian follow-up to Zangwill, The Melting Pot Play. This was revealed by a man named Myron Fagon. His name is Fagon, Fagon. Fagon, a staunch anti-communist, so good for him. Whether you believe this book and this quote to be a hoax or not doesn't matter. In the grand scheme of things, if you are awake to the diversity agenda and the real reasons behind mass immigration, then it passes the duck test. If it quacks like a duck and then it acts like a duck, it's a fucking duck. The proof is visual and only the awakened can see it. You can see the link between Zangwill and the melting pot idea and Cohen in his racial programming for the 20th century. They both have one defining and reoccurring theme: the Jewish desire as a race to use race as a weapon against the primary foe, the white Europeans. People often refer to the Protocol Elders of Zion, which we covered, as being a hoax, but ultimately it is immaterial because whoever wrote it has provided us with a prophetic look into the future, and the racial program for the 20th century can be put in the same category. George Orwell's 1984 was the work of fiction. However, nobody would deny that today it is uncanny similarities between what he wrote and what world we're living in today. It could be easily considered a warning of a dystopian future that we had foreseen, which we will live in today's society. Again, the same applies to the protocols and the racial program of the 20th century. Fucking crazy, because like I posted recently, you probably saw it. George Orwell saying, like, if you want to picture the future, picture a boot stamping on the face of humanity forever. You know?
Scary.
We got to get through some of these clips. So, This is a really good one. I really wanted to show last time. It's longer. It's about 5 minutes, but I want to show people because this is the point of, hey, it's that this idea that bringing people from the third world is helping the third world and that immigration is actually helping people is not true.
Some people say that mass immigration into the United States can help reduce world poverty. Is that true? Well, no, it's not. And let me show you why. This gumball represents the 1 million legal immigrants that the United States has taken every year on average since 1990. Now, who in the world deserves our humanitarian compassion? The World Bank has one measure of the desperately poor of the world. They make less than $2 a day. And how many people make less than $2 a day in the world? Well, let's start with Africa. In Africa alone, there are 650 million people who make less than $2 a day. 650 million. And in India, another 890 million people, desperately poor. China adds another 480 million people, making less than $2 a day. And unfortunately, the rest of Asia has a heartbreaking 810 million people who the World Bank says make less than $2 a day. And finally, there's 105 million of Latin America's population that are desperately poor. All told, the World Bank says there are 3 billion people in the world. 3 billion people who are desperately poor, making less than $2 a day. That's 3,000 gumballs. And every year, we take 1 million and suggest that we've somehow made a humanitarian difference. Of course, we don't pull our immigrants from these desperately poor populations, do we? These people are too poor, too sick, too disconnected to make it here as immigrants. We tend to pull our immigrants out of the better off poor of the world. And Mexico tends to define the type of immigrant that we bring here because the plurality of people come from Mexico. And Mexico is poor. How many people in the world live in countries that have average incomes lower than that of Mexico? And the World Bank tells us that that number is these 3 billion plus another 2.6 billion people. 5.6 billion people in the world who live in countries with average incomes below that of Mexico. That's 5,600 gumballs. And so what is it that the elites are telling us? They're telling us that when we take this 1 million immigrants, that we somehow or another are tackling world poverty. And we have to do it regardless of the effect on our unemployed, the working poor, the most vulnerable members of our society, regardless of the effect on our natural resources. Even if we went by the most radical proposals in Washington, which are to actually double our immigration to 2 million a year, which would totally overwhelm our physical, natural, and social infrastructures, we couldn't make a noticeable difference. And we may be really hurting the impoverished people of the world because the million that we do take are among the most energetic, often the better educated, certainly the most dissatisfied people that if they did not immigrate would be the agents for change to improve the lot of all the people in these countries. The true heroes in the global humanitarian field are the people in these countries who have the wherewithal to immigrate to another country, but instead stay in their countries, to apply their skills to help their fellow countrymen. Unfortunately, our immigration system tends to entice these very type of people to abandon their countrymen. The impossibility of making even a dent is actually worse than it looks here. Because last year, when we took 1 million immigrants, these countries added, births over deaths, 80 million more people into the impoverished population. And this year, Congress is bringing in 1 million legal immigrants. And this year, according to the United Nations, These countries are expected to add another 80 million people. And next year, you can be quite sure that Congress, unless stopped by the American voters, will bring in another million immigrants. And these countries, unfortunately, will be adding another 80 million people into these impoverished nations. We could take 5 million a year, but we'd never get ahead of what's happening in these countries. Not in this century. Don't you see? Immigration can never be an effective or significant way to deal with the suffering people of the world. They have to be helped where they live. 99.9% of them will never be able to immigrate to a rich country. There's no hope for that. They have to bloom where they're planted. The only place that 99.9% of these people can be helped is where they live. Let's help them there.
And we could. Like, we could do that.
That's the part. I said this on the last episode.
That guy's such a smart dude. Like, he's making it such a great example of like, and when I watched that video originally, this is like months ago, I was like, this is so true, dude. If like we're taking all the intelligent people that could help facilitate building these countries in the third world to something that resembles the civilized states that white people in the Western world have built. And they're just coming to our place where we exist instead of being like, hey, I want to take this knowledge. I want to impart my knowledge onto the place where I came from. You know, all these Indians showing up here that can afford it. Maybe go back home and fix that like poop garbage fucking place you come from.
It's I said this on the last episode. Like, I have no issue. I'm actually all for helping like these other countries. If we can get our shit together ourselves, I'm all for helping those third world places, those places that are struggling and war torn and falling apart. But I just never thought the answer was, why don't we just lift these people out of there and then just plant them right in the middle of our society and then go, huh, that didn't work. Weird.
I know.
Strange that didn't work. And I'm like, you stupid. Like, how dumb can you be?
I got more videos to play, so we might as well get through some of these. There's one for you that I have about Ireland, but let's get through some of these.
International Rescue Committee is another example of a Jewish-led trafficker of Muslims into Europe. Not only are they furthering the Jewish agenda of white genocide, they are also profiting immensely from the furthering of this agenda. Jewish David Miliband was previously involved in UK politics. He was caught several times in multiple scandals, so in light of his corruptness, they moved him to be the head of the INRC, or the International Rescue Committee. He was involved in a scandal where he was running AK-47s out of Britain via the Ukraine, which ended up in Uganda and other countries whom refugees came from. He asked members of parliament to cover up his actions. They were making millions off this weapon scandal. The INRC has an annual budget of £50 million. It receives heavy funding from the Zionist-controlled governments of the UK and the US. Miliband comes from a communist background, and as we know, communism is a Jewish creation. His dad, Ralph Miliband, was an academic and a well-known cultural Marxist. Several times he made comments about how he hated Britain, despite the fact that he had immigrated from Belgium in the 40s after the Nazi invasion, then actively began working towards the destruction of the UK through the Frankfurt Jewish creation of cultural Marxism. Brothers David and Ed Miliband took over the INRC. Ed was previously the head of the Labour Party. The INRC was actually founded by Einstein, another Jew who was an advocate of white genocide. The Miliband brothers have made insane amounts of money off each refugee they helped guide into European countries.
And just so people know, Einstein stole most of his shit. Dude, if you don't know that, yeah, I've watched a lot of stuff and looked into it, and Einstein essentially stole his whole idea of the theory of relativity and stuff like that from a German guy, an actual German, not a Jewish German, an actual German. He lied, man. He like made up everything he said. He took it from somebody else. They're scam artists. They like, and I'm not saying all Jewish people are like this. And the thing is too, like, I want to make the like this show start off as something as an escape for people and always will be. This will be the last time we kind of do this for a couple months. Like it might be a while. I have another episode ready to go for
Taking
this
a
type.
world detox.
But like I need a detox from this stuff, and this is part of it, is me being like, hey, let me show you what's going on so you understand what's happening to you, not only white people, but everybody. Like everybody this is happening to. Like I don't want to see my friends that are black or Asian or native that have grown up in Canada be like erase their culture that they assimilated to become a part of. And especially someone like you in Ireland, where it's like, no, Irish people deserve a home. They've been around for thousands of years. I got Dustin Nimoy's coming back on the show, and he claims that Irish people are the real Israelites, the real people that literally were in the Bible. They've fragmented everything and changed it.
And like, we literally like I live on a very small island. Like where else am I supposed to go?
That was that was what's her name's point of view that I had on the show. With MK, she was like, if white people don't have a home, where do we go? I've seen comments like, go to Poland. And it's like, no, this is supposed to be like all of our collective.
Why do I have
homes.
to go to Poland though?
Yeah, I know. Like, you're not Canada. Like, say this. Like I said this before.
Someone said that to me before. I should have like, oh, move to Iceland. You won't have any problems. And I was like, what if I don't want to move to Iceland?
Yeah, I know. Iceland, Poland, and Hungary are the only really places that I'm aware of. And the thing is, like, then if this was just Canada, I could go to where originally my bloodline goes back to, which is Britain. Oh wait, let me just show you this, because Britain's not Britain anymore.
Has 66 primary schools, serving nearly 40,000 children. 20 years ago, more than half of them were white British. At Drew Primary in the heart of the Docklands, there are now just 3 per class.
Good morning. The area has changed a lot. If you look back 15 years ago, most of the children in the school were white British.
Good morning.
We're no longer living in a monoculture society. They're coming in from everywhere. We have 43 languages spoken, and probably at least once a week we have a child arrive or a family arrive who have no English.
Disgusting. I'm done. Like, it's not good, man. Like, there's in a massive entire continent for people that they're like, you know what I mean? It's sickening to me, man. And I just got these stickers. I'm like, I have to retire my fuck Trudeau sticker on my car. So I have a lot of these, which show who the fuck Canadians are. This is our coat of arms that show the Irish, Scottish, French, and the English that developed and built this country from fucking nothing but wilderness. Without the Irish, there is no Canada. Without the Scottish, there is no Canada. Without the English, there is no Canada. Especially without the French, there is no Canada. Without the French, there would be your fucking indigenous tribes that wouldn't exist today because they helped fight against that. It's fucking sick, man.
I do hope actually that everybody like who obviously listens for these specific things will stick around and, you know, just have a bit of fun. And maybe you need a detox as well. Like somebody listening out there, I see somebody said something about, dude, I get it. I'm literally a hermit, blah, blah, blah. And I totally get that because like it becomes easier to just be like, oh God, like I need to just fend for myself and like fucking disappear. But maybe it'll be good for, like, I'm not saying it's going to improve anything, but it might be good for us all to have like a few months where we just do like cryptids and different things, because it does, it takes a complete mental and physical toll on you to constantly have this in the back of your mind where you're like, yeah, that's fun and all, but everything's fucked. So that's a cool movie, but everything's fucked.
And we're I know Aaron's got that's why we're doing a little shorter form on this episode. So everyone like, subscribe, share. We have a couple more clips to show. At least I got through the melting pot stuff. But I just want to like, and not only are certain people of different cultures and ethnicities replacing ours, they're actually stealing it. And that's a fact. No, if you want to deny it all you want, but this is happening. This is something that boiled my blood, and this is someone that you should all follow. If I can remember his name, it's gonna bug me. Irish guy that I really like his content.
Oh,
you should
fuck yeah,
notice.
I know.
It's like weird like that. Oh, it's gonna bug me.
I know the guy as well. Straight away the minute you said it.
You should know, or fuck, it's gonna bother me. Whatever. Let me just play the clip if you find it.
There's never ever a famine in the history of Ireland. There was never slavery in the history of Ireland. The tricolor that you're waving around is not your flag. Okay, I'm just teaching you real Irish history because why? I am a staunch Republican. I am a staunch Republican.
No other group of people does this.
Because I know Irish history by heart. And it's common sense, common knowledge. There was no famine in this country.
I'm just going to pause it here 1 second. There's journals around the time, newspapers talking about it. There's censuses done back then where it showed a huge drop in population. There's famine pits in certain parts of Ireland and mass burial graves. It's not disputed that there was a famine. And I want to ask you the simple question. Do you think Ireland would be a nice place to live in 10, 15, 20 years if we allowed the government to keep filling the country with people who think like that?
Disgusting. Fuck you, man. That's disgusting.
I can't believe I can't find his thing.
I can't, it's like it's something very simple. Like Jesus, I hit my mic. That's crazy, man. You don't see anybody else, any other ethnic group of people doing this where they're like, yeah, you don't have any culture. You don't have, oh, that's all a lie. That tricolor is not your flag.
I don't understand either, though, what the point he was making there, where he's like, oh, and by the way,
this is what they all do.
But I'm a staunch Republican. So if you actually look at what it means to be Republican here, it kind of has a little bit maybe of a different meaning in the terms of like what the states might think it as, but like to be on like the Irish Republican side, for him to say that and then also turn around and be like, yeah, it's not your flag, we have no culture. I'm like, what are you talking about?
First of all, you're not fucking Irish. Your parents probably immigrated to Ireland like Jesus Christ, I'm gonna freak out my dog. He's like
he's so pissed off as well.
Oh, what is up, man? Yeah, it's this is awesome.
Yeah, I totally get that.
Yeah, because Jesus, I'm gonna freak out. That dog just does nothing but scream. What's it's
I don't know if we're gonna be able to see this. So what the current president of Ireland was doing on St. Patrick's Day versus what the future president of Ireland was doing on St. Patrick's Day. So if we zoom in, the current president,
put it right up to the camera.
I see it's a TikTok thing, so I can't
I
can't hold it.
I see.
If you can see on one side here, we have the current president, who is surrounded by multicolored haired, multi-skin colored people doing a whole thing. And then the same day, we have McGregor in the White House with his whole family with Donald Trump.
And see, yeah, I know, of course. And I don't trust Donald Trump because guess what? He's owned by the Zionists who are actually facilitating all of this shit. Oh, that's just theories, though. Don't worry. That's just that's everything on the show is just it's not real, man. It's just take nothing seriously. But like, you know, it is crazy that they like. I don't know. Even though when I had Adrian the realist on, the Native American dude, they're like, he's done videos where now Black people are claiming that they're the real indigenous people. They're the real natives of America, of the Americas or whatever, because it actually wasn't called that. It just was labeled that later on when white people came in. And we talked about this type of stuff. And The funny thing is the swastika comes from ancient Tibetan, indigenous, all over the world. That symbol, and an indigenous, and he even said, he's like, things won't change until we let swastikas fly. The swastika fly, because it's he talks about what it means in the indigenous culture, and what the National Socialists took from it was the idea of the Big Dipper, and I think the Little Dipper, and how it moves, or it might be the Big Dipper, and how it moves in the constellations. And he talked, like, it'll be an interesting episode to hear everybody. It'll be live, but it won't be like actually live. It'll be interesting for people to hear this stuff. But like, this is the same problem. They're like, oh, we're Egyptian now. Oh, we're this, we're that. Oh, and I said today at work, I was like, watch. I was like, the Muslims taking over Europe at some point in 50 years. They'll be like, see all these cathedrals and all these buildings? We built them. And it's like, no, you didn't. You couldn't even build a basic fort in your backyard. So like, you can't say that you're going to steal, like, you're essentially stealing other people's culture and heritage and claiming that it's yours. That's wrong. I'm not going to go to Africa and stand in some sort of mud hut and be like, I built this. See, this is
a very
mine.
strange thing to do as well, though, isn't it?
It's a weird thing. It's a weird thing that they only do. It seems like I wouldn't go to Japan or go to China and stand in front of some sort of like dragon statue and be like, I built this. This is my.
Know what's bad, right?
Stuff.
You know what's like, actually the scary, infuriating part about all this is, I'm pretty sure, right, if the roles were reversed there and I made a video like that, right, and said it, like, flip everything around and whatever his culture is, and like say the exact same things he said just in reverse, I'm pretty sure that I would be torn to shreds.
Yes.
But it's this thing, because he's a black dude and because of all that, it's like, you're not allowed to go, well, actually, hold on a sec now. That doesn't sound right. Because it's like, oh, you're racist then, so you don't like black people. It's like, no, I don't agree with the message. I don't care what you look like. The message.
Strange how they disregard our history while simultaneously claiming it's their own. And I've seen this recently too. Is of people, like, someone sent me this video and they're like, what do you think of this? And it was an African woman breaking down, listen to this, how the colonization of Africa built Europe. And I was like, and I commented throughout all of her videos, and I was like, you are just spreading lies. This is not true. Europe was fucking built before the colonization of small fractions of Africa. They took no resources from Africa to build Europe. They didn't even go that direction. They already built civilizations in Europe before they even went in that direction. So there is people on the internet all the time that are just spreading blatant, not factual lies. It's not factual in any way. These people, it boils my fucking blood, because you're just lying. You are just telling fabricated fairy tale stories that somebody in some Marxist university told you.
Another thing as well, that none of them things rarely get flagged with
I know, ever.
The misinformation things and all.
You're just telling lies. You're telling fabricated stories about things that never happened, that you just made up in your head because you're fucking delusional. There's so many people like that. They're like that black guy. Oh yeah, like Ireland never experienced famine or death or slavery. There was more white people enslaved under the Ottoman Empire more than blacks were ever enslaved, and they actually enslaved themselves in the thousands and millions more than white people ever enslaved their own people. So like, these people that build up these buildings in their heads that are just sandcastles that can easily collapse as soon as someone touches it, it just collapses to the ground because they're not built on actual facts.
Yeah, but then you can just get out of it by being like, you're racist.
You're a racist. You're a white supremacist. You're a Nazi.
Yeah.
I'm fucking done with all this shit. So I have a couple more clips. I hope we can stick around. Okay, how long do you have before it's like?
And I have another few minutes.
Okay, let's just do this.
So here we have an example of a foreign Jewish NGO directly linked to Israel that is somehow able to live and stay in Greece and help the Muslim invaders navigate through the welfare system, and to their ultimate destination in northwestern Europe? Have they received a work permit? How are they able to operate in a foreign country for so long? Secondly, why aren't they helping invaders into their own country, who has accepted virtually zero refugees? In fact, Israel is the only country that's allowed to actually be racist and actually kick people out for just being black and actually genocide a group of people. Yet they're helping the Muslims invade the European countries. Israel founder Shakar Sefi is a prominent member in the Jewish community, so much so that he even speaks at AIPAC meetings. AIPAC is the largest lobby in politics. Both Democrats and Republicans alike pander to this lobby and do whatever this lobby tells them to, because this lobby funds them. This lobby is the reason that we went to war in the Middle East. Israel founder Shakar speaks at these AIPAC meetings, so you can begin to see how this comes full circle. The same people that create the problem that causes the reaction give you the solution, the genocide.
Everyone, Irishness is not a piece of paper.
Okay, so there's one more clip. Yeah, it's all backed by the same people.
There's a really good quote from, I mentioned Bobby Sands earlier, and like, I don't know why, but it constantly comes back in my mind. And he was obviously saying this about the British at the time, but I don't know why it just rings true all the time. So much so that at one point I was actually wanting to get this done in a tattoo in some way. The quote is, "They have nothing," and this can apply to pretty much what's going on now as well. "They have nothing in their whole imperial arsenal that can break the spirit of one Irishman who does not want to be broken."
That's true.
And I think that's a very important thing to think of. It's like,
there's quotes I've been looking into. There's one account on YouTube that like shows like the Canadian culture and heritage, and he's got like 300 subscribers. And I was like, why is this? And I took some of this video footage of the history of Canada to do my latest video on TikTok that'll eventually be on Instagram, of showing like what is a Canadian. I did this whole speech. I repeated myself a couple times of like what it is to be Canadian, but I did like a 6-minute video to be like, what does it mean to be Canadian or Irish? Like essentially was the idea, it's the people. It's not the country. It's not the land. It's not the fish. It's not the fucking birds in the sky. It's the people. That's what makes it.
I wonder as well, should we be like taking some of that footage and stuff now and like storing it away on hard drives? Because like,
that's what I'm doing.
I wonder at some point before the end of our lives, will that shit just be erased? Where like,
I'm showing my kids all of this stuff. Like, you know what I mean? They have to know.
Like, I wonder though, when our kids are like our age now, will it be a thing where like you'll pull out this like old-fashioned hard drive and be like, let me show you some shit, and they'll have no access to like, that's just been erased from their
if with the way that we're going in Canada, they'll be told their ancestors were genocidal maniacs to just slaughter people for no reason, which is not true in any regard in any way. There's one or two clips. How long do you have? Seriously,
go again.
Okay, this is just one that I want to show, which is important about what's happening in South Africa. And it's crazy that people in the comments were denying it and telling this guy he's a liar. No, this is actually happening in South Africa. They are mass slaughtering white people because of their skin color.
In South Africa, if you're white, you have a target on your back, whether you live on a farm or whether you live in the suburbs. In 2011, they brutally and savagely murdered my wife's grandfather. They did not ask where he was born. He was born in Austria. However, when they saw the color of his skin, they did not ask where he was from. They savagely tortured him, strangled him, burnt him, and then murdered him. Before they did this, they also raped his wife in front of him to death. Yes, several men raped her to death. So living in South Africa is not for the faint-hearted. The ANC government goes out and continuously calls for the killing of the white minority. Now, not only the white men are suffering, but the women. There is basically no women's rights. Every 3 minutes, a woman is raped in South Africa. Countless infants below the age of 2 years old are raped on cultural beliefs in South Africa. Animals that get stolen or hacked to death alive. The cattle industry is also suffering because these guys go out and butcher animals while they're alive just to get meat and to fearmonger the farmers on their farms. Before they attack a house in the suburbs, they go and they poison the dogs, putting the dogs through absolute misery and pain. It is tear-jerking to think what is going on in my home country. And here I live in America as a refugee, and I've got safety and pleasures of life that my fellow South Africans cannot fathom. You know, being a house owner in America, I actually own a house that hasn't got a 10-foot fence around it, which feels weird. And nothing seems to be changing in South Africa because the government doesn't want it to change. They want the white man to suffer. They want the white woman to suffer. They want the children to suffer. They are killing the language. They are killing the people. And what they are standing for is ungodly and unethical and immoral. And I honestly believe that Cyril Ramaphosa, Julius Malema, and the ANC will be held accountable and need to appear in front of a jury on accounts of crimes against humanity and against the white minority in South Africa. We will not cease until this happens, because God will prevail and evil will come second. Now, you know, you've
See, like, there's only a couple minutes left, but man, this stuff's very real. They're like denying it. Like, all in the comments were like, "That's stop lying." And it's like, no, you're a fucking ignorant retard that doesn't realize.
I know that lives here now with his mother because of that.
Yeah.
Their land and like.
So do I. I actually know a guy that comes to the shop next door, and he's South African, and he's like, he backed it up, and I was like, I was like, hey, I heard you're South African, whatever, and he was like, yeah. It's what you've heard about is happening in some regard is happening. It's happening, man.
But like,
they're slaughtering people
also,
based on their skin color.
Yeah, you have to like think as well. Just think about some of the things he said there. Raped his wife to death. There's what did they say? Women are getting raped every 2 to 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Just think about the level of like savagery, and we can imagine who's committing such acts. They're animals. They're just like uncivilized just animals. Like, there's no other way of putting it. Like, anybody that behaves like that, and I don't care, right? If my next door neighbor, if I found out that my next door neighbor,
if Richard Ramirez is doing that, it's savagery. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like
if
that's the thing. Like, if the guy that lived next to me
it's savagery
for the last 20 years, if I found out tomorrow, oh, he's been arrested, and they said why, and it's like, oh, he's been like raping shit tons of kids and whatever. He's also an animal. Like, I'm not going to go, well, he's Irish and he's my neighbor, so it's actually cool.
And it's funny that that's what other people do now, where they're like, it's okay, he's Muslim, he didn't know any better. Like, and that's a huge fucking
and
problem.
That thing of pandering to like, oh, we have to let our police forces get like crash courses in like how to deal with like if
the guy showed last time.
The town over from me, it's a while back now. They were I want to say Algerian or something like that. One of those fucking just shithole places. Anyway, they're all the same to me. And the dad had an argument with the girlfriend over Facebook or something like that. She was like messaging her friends on Facebook, and they come from a culture where he's like, no, you don't have no friends. You don't like go on Facebook. I've told you this before. So he decided it'd be a really good thing to stab her to death in front of the child, and then also stab the child as well in the process.
That's where like white people are the ones that are serial killers. Like, your shit doesn't get reported because they just let them free, and they just think it's okay to do this to people that is not them. And like, so I commented on something about this. I think it was that lady's thing where I'm like, you're lying. I was like, why not that there was a lady this black lady that was talking about the colonization of Africa and how the Europeans stole resources to build Europe, which is like based in actual just fucking lies. She doesn't know what the hell she's talking about. She's probably been programmed by some Marxist teacher going to some university that our tax dollars paid for. And I commented, I was like, why are you talking about the South Africans, the white South Africans that are being slaughtered in the thousands? And then somebody commented and said, good, slaughter them all. They should all be slaughtered. And I was like, you guys are just proving my point. You guys act like savages, then you repeat the savagery, and you are just part of the problem, and you are just facilitating the idea of why people think these things. Is because when you act like a savage, and then you actually just justify savagery and barbarity, you are part of that. I'm fucking so done with this shit.
But it's funny. It's funny if that shit came on your door, I can guarantee you would have a very different attitude.
Yeah, definitely. I have 2 more clips to play, and then we can end this because this is the last time I want to do this for a while. And then
has recently been warning that low birth rates could cause civilizational collapse, and he's right. So, what is causing low birth rates? We need to get serious and stop relying on abstractions, and we need to look at the precise details. When we closely examine the factors that cause lower birth rates, specifically among the white population in the West, we can see that the lower birth rates are caused by a highly complex, deliberate process that involves the psychological manipulation of societal values and attitudes, as well as specific phenomena that are deliberately brought about because they are calculated to create the conditions that lead to low birth rates. When we stop invoking some ethereal, invisible force like modernization, and start to responsibly analyze the root causes, we see that this process is directed and perpetuated by specific individuals who occupy the main nodes of influence in the West. The main life-altering values and mechanisms of birth rate decline in the West include the insertion and deliberate promotion of 1. Abortion, 2. Feminism, 3. Contraceptives, 4. Homosexuality and other non-traditional pairings that entail the impossibility of reproduction, 5. The mass media dissemination of pornography, hedonism, materialism, individualism, and other destructive anti-family values. And 6. Mass non-white immigration. These factors combined have undeniably resulted in the loss of tens and perhaps hundreds of millions of lives. We need to avoid vague conspiracy theories and abstractions, and we need to look at the specific names and individuals who use these mechanisms of birth rate decline as weapons of racial and demographic war. In every single case, the people playing the leading role are Jews. Jews are a mere 2% of our population, but they vastly disproportionately control, direct, fund, and facilitate all of these mechanisms of decline. It's not hateful to point this out. It's a factual description.
It is. And the thing is, like, that's like 10-minute video that I just cut down to 2 minutes or whatever. And it is like all these things that have been facilitated to destroy us from within. That's a fact. People can like try to justify what is happening by whatever programming tool that has been used through psychological warfare to do this to their own psychology and their own brains, where most people are literally just dumb as rocks and don't realize what's happening to them. Like, there is so much proof and evidence of what is happening, even within your own eyesight, that it's provable. And the people that deny it, you are nothing more than facilitating your own destruction, in my opinion.
Where is that video from?
I actually found it from X. I saved it. But it breaks down where it comes from, who promotes all these certain ideologies that have essentially led to the facilitation and destruction of whites as a whole, and other people, of course, too. But they've done this for now decades, if not centuries, to be able to. They're not promoting us to have more kids. You get kicked pittance, like just barely nothing to like have kids in Canada or any Western world country. People like have more kids. I'm like, all of us are fucking struggling.
Yeah, it's so hard to like.
survive.
I think if I like, I've said it multiple times. I have a 10-year-old son. I'm not with his mother, and even that, like, if I met somebody and I was like really into him, I'd have to really like consider, am I in a position to be able to have another kid and like be able to afford that?
Yeah, and it's not like it's not like our governments have ever tried in any way at all to promote birth rates within the white population. That's never fucking happened. They give you literally like shreds of scraps from the steak table that they've eaten at, of very expensive meals and escargot and everything else that they're literally living like in castles and in these rich mansions while they kick you scraps from the tax dollars that you paid to them to actually build up their own wealth from our own money. And the more that people don't realize that this is happening, like, I don't know what else I have to show you throughout this show. Like this, like I said, this is the last time we're gonna do this for a while. We're gonna shift gears and start going to more positive, fun, interesting topics. But like, I needed to do this for my own sanity to say, hey, I tried to show people what was going on. I tried to expose what was happening. It is happening all around the Western world. The more that you that deny it, the more that I think that you have some of the lowest IQs in all of the Western world. You are just facilitating your own destruction. And they told Canadians that we were having too many kids in the 80s. They told us that we were overpopulated. The very same people like Bill Gates that have said, oh, the world's overpopulated, are the same people that are facilitating these people to flood into your country and destroy you from within. It's a fact.
Yeah, I don't know. It gets to a point where like you're just like, what do I even say? And then I think with a lot of people that come back with these rebuttals, sometimes it's literally just a case of like, well, there is actually no point in trying to like talk to you. I'm not trying to sell you some shit. I'm just saying that like it is. And look, yeah, right. And that might be true, but you know what I think is also true for a lot of people? A lot of people feel like they do see something. They do know that it's not right. They do know it's wrong. It's whatever. And because it's scary and whatever, out of sight, out of mind becomes the if I just like put my head down and pretend this doesn't exist, then it doesn't exist. Now the problem with that is it's ever increasingly getting closer and closer and closer and closer. So that will only work for so long until, like I said, you get a knock at the door and you open it and some immigrant stabs you in the neck. Literally,
Yeah,
because
it's
that
true.
happened in Dublin a few weeks ago. A dude literally just went to a street, some like random street, and just started knocking on people's doors. And then when they'd open the door, he'd stab them. And then he'd just go down
Can't
the
remember
street.
where it was, where it was Austria or Germany, something like that, in a town square. Like 16 people or something got stabbed up by some migrant, like in the middle of just stabbing up a bunch. There's so many injured people, just literally a knife wielding maniac stabbing everybody. This is what we are letting into our countries. And if you deny that, sorry, that you're not very intelligent. And the thing is that I said on a video recently where I was talking about this stuff of how I'm like, I'm going to give up, man, trying to wake people up. It is what it is. And I said that there are so many people digging their own graves around us that eventually the graves that they're digging, we will fall into ourselves collectively. So these are liberals, leftists, communists, these people that don't understand they're facilitating their own destruction. They're digging themselves a 6 foot deep grave, 6 foot deep. And then as they're digging it, they're clawing at the gravel and the dirt around them that is stretching out that hole of that grave that they're building for themselves, where eventually everybody will fall into that same fucking grave. And that's what's happening. And if you deny that, you're denying reality. You're denying facts. You're denying your own heritage and your blood and what goes through your veins and what is telling you what is right and wrong and moral and ethic to stand up against these things. The most masculine thing that men can do as a man is to speak out against atrocities. And that's what's happening. And that's a good analogy that I just made up in my head. Essentially, people are digging their own graves, and the more that they dig themselves, their graves, they're actually helping everybody else dig their own graves.
It's just it's sad and unfortunate, to be honest. Like there's not much else to.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's done, it's over, or whatever. And like I said, I'm doing this last time, and then I have episodes I'm switching into, but I will, at least I can say, hey, I tried to show people what was going on. And like I said, I know we have fans from all around the world that are black, white, Asian, indigenous, doesn't matter, Hispanic. I have love for all people. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. I care too much is why I do episodes like this. I could have done the show where I just kept it where it was just like, oh, cryptids and strange, true crime and paranormal stuff. I choose to have a bigger heart and to try to expose what is going on to make people realize that it's happening to everybody. And I saved this clip for you, and this is about what it means to be Irish.
Everyone. Irishness is not a piece of paper. You don't become Irish, you either are or you aren't. You are Irish by blood, not by bureaucracy. Irishness is not, and never has been, defined by abstract civic values alone. A nation's identity is rooted in its people, its culture and its history, not just in legal status or ideological declarations. If anyone can be Irish, then no one truly is, and the term itself loses all meaning. National identity is more than a label. It is a lived experience passed down through generations, not something that can be granted or acquired on demand. When I travel to India, I want to see Indian people. Not English, not Spanish, not African. When I go to China, I want to see Chinese people. When I visit Portugal or Sweden, I want to experience their unique cultures, their people, their traditions. So why should Ireland be any different? Why should we, as Irish people, be expected to accept the idea that Ireland should be anything but Irish? I don't want Ireland to be Indian. I don't want Ireland to be Portuguese. I don't want Ireland to be Nigerian. I want Ireland to be Irish. And that is perfectly okay for me to expect. Every nation has the right to preserve its identity, and Ireland is no exception. A nation that forgets who it is will cease to exist. Ireland must remain Irish, not just in name, but in spirit, blood, and heritage. We owe it to our ancestors, our future generations, and to ourselves. If current rates of immigration and decline in Irish birth rates continue, by 2045, only 1 in 2 people in Ireland will be ethnically Irish. So no, not everyone can be Irish. We are Irish by blood, not bureaucracy.
I don't know what you want to say, man. They're trying to kill us.
Dude, that shit gives me chills every time I
Yeah,
see
I
that.
almost
I'm
threw it
like,
up, dude.
"Ugh, it's fucking grim. It makes me feel like just, oh, it's awful.
This must be spoken about endlessly, so we appreciate it. There aren't many who are willing to take this topic on. Most white people just put their heads in the sands or get lost in materialism and video games, etc. Shut themselves inside, say it isn't happening. They will face it one day, and by then it will be too late. And that's why I'm like, I've always been someone to push boundaries, and like, I have the platform to do it. I've built up this audience. I've been podcasting since 2018. It started off slow and belligerent and drunk, but like I said a million fucking times, this is not about white people. This is about everybody that will be collectively destroyed if we don't hold our nation's values, ethics, and morals to each standard of each nation. Like he said, if I go to India, I want to experience Indian culture. If I go to China, I want to experience Chinese culture. If I go to Ireland, I want to experience Irish culture. If I go to Canada, I want to experience Canadian culture, which was a very real thing that I've documented and saved videos to show people, hey, this is who the fuck we were, despite you having some Asian like mayor in Toronto that can't even speak fucking English. Or Indians everywhere that are mayors and taking over our cities and stuff like that. No, that doesn't make you Canadian just because you hold a fucking piece of paper.
Yeah, it's I don't know, dude. It's like, and that comment there.
This is the last time I do this for a while.
Second ago, like it kind of, and look, it is like I've been guilty of it as well. Like you bog yourself down with material shit, and it kind of helps to, I don't know, like ease the pain or whatever. You like get into a video game or you get into like a movie and just like pretend like it doesn't exist, but it's a real thing. It's happening around us. I don't like saying this, but I personally don't know if it's already too late. I don't know. I don't know if we can do a full reset. I don't know if anything can change. Is there a way to overthrow them? What can we do? Yeah. Will people ever band together? I know I do definitely think there's more people now than ever in like my lifetime are awake to this stuff and actually realizing like the amount of conversations I have just outside in my everyday life with people that I would have said are not in tune with any of this ever. And now they're being like,
I
you
see
see the
young
shit
kids
that's
like
going on?
18
Yeah,
and
like
19 that I work with
see
seeing
what's
it.
happening, or like I go to jiu-jitsu and I'm talking with different people and people I never would have expected to go, do you see that shit that's happening in such a place? And do you see that thing on, and I was reading something and I saw something on X. There was like a video of a guy and he was showing like all these statistics and blah blah blah. And like even my dad and stuff are kind of like more and more starting to get clued in on that shit. And I'm like, that's a really good thing. But again, it's that thing of like dreams without actions are just dreams. It's like if we don't do something, it's grand to acknowledge it and say, yeah, like I know all the problems, whatever. Okay, but now what are we going to actually do about it though? Because we have to do something, or else
And
we're
then we
just
get labeled as all these things for wanting to stand for our own people and our own cultural heritage. Like my family has been in Canada since 1604. That's almost 500 years, man. That we've built ourselves into a people, and all the roads, the statues, the cenotaphs, the war memorials for all the people that died in pointless wars. Our ancestors that fought in World War I and II died for nothing. They did. They died for absolutely fucking nothing to give the Jews Israel. That's a fact. They died for nothing. Millions upon millions of white people died for nothing. That is true. Is our world any better since those wars? No.
and
They've actually got dramatically worse.
now, just in a different way.
Yeah,
Like it's continuing to happen right now, just in a completely different way.
And like I said, this will be the last time we do it for all the fans and the people that appreciate what we're doing. Like, subscribe, share it. We need to get this out. We did a 2-part episode on this stuff. Me and Aaron have covered similar topics recently. I don't even know how I'm realistic. I don't know how Billy would have reacted to some of this stuff, because I know he's upset about it, but Billy tries to be like he tries to joke about it more than he wants to acknowledge. He's told me he knows what's going on. He's very aware of it. But you being from Ireland and having that dichotomy of different cultures in the Western world and stuff like that. I've talked to, there's a British guy that was doing podcasting, and we were supposed to do an episode about this type of stuff weeks ago, and we didn't end up doing it or whatever. He's busy doing his own thing, but he just started to get a podcast. He was like, oh, we should do an episode.
It's crazy because I've spent a lot of years kind of, I won't lie, there was a good part of me that was like, fuck Ireland. I don't care about it anymore. I don't give a shit. I just whatever. They can just fucking sink it into the ocean. I don't care. All through slowly seeing what was happening and being like, well, obviously I can't, like one person can't do anything, or a handful of people can't just overthrow an entire country and just change everything. So I wouldn't say I submitted to the fact that like it's fucked, but I kind of, like we spoke about earlier, I kind of I had just gotten that mentality. I was like, there's no point in me caring because it's not going to matter who, like, it doesn't matter if I care or not. So I tried for years to kind of suppress that in a way. And it's only in like the last while, slowly but surely, it started to like seep back in. I was like, I actually do care though, because that's why it's pissing me off. And that's why I keep avoiding it, because I actually do care.
Yeah, me too. And like I've said this in the show, right? Like before is I was so against authority that I even hated my own country and government. Not hate, like I hate the government, but I was like, I'm not fucking standing for the national anthem. You can't make me do shit because I don't like authority. I don't like people telling me what to do. And it wasn't until I got older, and you can hear this on older episodes and stuff like that, I was very much trying to play the field of being accepting of everybody. You know, we had a gay host. Me and Anton would joke about a ton of stuff, you know, and make light of things. And I would say, like, you know, we just need to accept people. And I would blame white people for what happened to the indigenous. And then until I started digging, until I did my own research and started to really look and be like, are we these genocidal maniacs that everybody else is trying to paint us as? And once I started looking, it's like, no. And like, don't get your facts from Google, that's for sure. Actually read books and dig for articles that they've hidden from us in the Wayback Machine. So I have so many things that I've saved from things that they don't want you to see and show you, because they need this to happen. They need, first of all, us to hate ourselves to facilitate our own destruction. But like I said to Jeremy, I was like, not only have they facilitated everybody else to hate us and our way of life and blame us for everything and all their problems, they've done that, but also they've facilitated the hatred of our own self we don't love each other. They're and
No,
these people out there, they're not about love and intolerant, like about tolerance. Have you been out in the world? Everybody fucking hates each other.
and that's exactly it. And it's that thing of also as well, I think it's become a thing, like if you're a curious type of person, you're a conspiracy theorist or an asshole or a lunatic or whatever. Like I'm curious about lots of things, whether it be movies, games, comics, toys, figures, culture, nostalgia, whatever it might be. But I'm also curious about history and maybe a different opinion on something. And look, I can't say like I can't tell somebody, oh, this is what happened in World War II, and I know that for a fact. I can't say that, but I'm curious enough to want to hear all the different sides, all the different versions. This thing that you get, like, you go to school and you get your 5 textbooks, you get your history book, your geography book, your fucking English book, your whatever book, and it's like that's it. You don't need anything outside of those handful of books. And I'm like, now I'm starting to realize more and more how fickle and how like full of shit all that is. Like, I mean, I think it's starting this coming September when kids go to school and they get their Irish language book. There's a fucking Indian chick on the front of it in some sort of like turban thing. And I'm like, now, again, right? I have no issue with an Indian person, an African person, whatever, being on an Indian book, being on an African book. What I don't understand is why would she be on the front of an Irish language book? So then that obviously doesn't mean anything. It's not worth the paper it's written on. So all the shit you've told me throughout school and all that stuff, I've been like pre-programmed with all history and, this is bad and these won and these were wrong and these were right. How do I know any of that is like based on reality?
It's not. And that's why I'm going to attempt to teach my kids at some point is like to be like, what they're teaching in schools is not factual because I know what they're going to do. They're going to be like, your ancestors are fucking, and I'm going to be like, no, that's not how it works, man. That's not how it works. Your communist teacher doesn't know anything about history. They've been programmed the same way as everybody else has, right? We went a little long for this. I wanted to like kind of keep this shorter and sweeter than last time we went for 3 hours. I know Aaron has stuff to do, but like I said, this will be the last time. I actually have another episode written about the same stuff, but it's not going to come for maybe a couple months to a year. But like we're gonna start doing some really fun stuff. I have a lot of cryptid true crime.
I really want to bargain for, but I need just a little bit of time.
Frogman.
I really want to do Frogman.
Yeah.
And the other big one that I'm just like so big on, and I would love to do it maybe during the summer or something like that if we could, is I just got a new book and I'm gonna absolutely dig the shit out of it. Is Bigfoot.
Okay. I've told Shane we have to get him on the show for a Bigfoot deep dive.
Oh, dude.
My plan was always to do like a 4-hour like Bigfoot deep dive. Like I said, I have a baby girl on the way that I'm very excited about, and like and things are gonna shift. We're gonna have episodes that are still gonna be released. Things are gonna shift. Like for that month that I'm gonna be off. People are still going to be getting episodes, especially on audio and probably some video because I've built up a lot of content for this reason. But I want to shift gears. Like I just wanted to bring awareness to this stuff and be honest about the situation and honest with my thoughts about what's going on and you as well to expose some of this stuff, and this is the whole idea is like, just be like, is not the love for my own people and my own culture and my own heritage is not hate towards other people in any way. And I've said this numerous times, but I feel like people have to like constantly like, because what they've taught from school, you have to keep repeating yourself to like make sure that
it's not just like, it's that thing of like, I like coffee and it's like, that doesn't mean I hate tea.
Yeah, I
It
know.
just means I prefer coffee and I like coffee and that's just, you know what I mean? Like, it's like I drink lots of water, but that doesn't mean I don't like other things. It just means
because I like Orange Crush, does not mean I don't drink grape soda.
And it's that thing of like, it's like you said, like I love my country, I love the people, I love the culture, and that doesn't mean that I want everybody else to fucking die and be miserable and suffer. It just means that I don't want to suffer at the expense of trying to do something for you, and I can't even sort my own shit out. Like
100%. Like we said, we have our own people to deal with.
I'm 33 in 2 weeks' time, right? I am back living at home. I cannot afford, like you said, I can't even afford some like little Indian like cardboard shack full of human shit. Right? If I give up every possession I have, every savings I have, car, everything, still can't afford it anywhere.
I know.
My options are limited to people say, "Oh, my options are limited." I don't even have options. I'm in a fucking attic conversion right now. Like, you might think, "Oh, look, you have this podcast though, and you've got all this stuff." Yeah, stuff I accumulated fucking 15 years ago that I still have. That now, like, does absolutely nothing for me. But outside of this little square that everybody sees, like, I have no fucking prospects. I have no, like,
No,
where the fuck.
it's happened to everybody in Canada too, right? Like the job that I have in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s could facilitate me to live and actually provide for an entire family of like probably 4 kids and my
And
wife.
and your wife probably doesn't have to work, and she gets to
Yeah.
be like stay-at-home mom, and you get to probably pay for your house outright
There
after
was
3
people
4
that worked
years.
in manufacturing jobs in the 80s that could buy a house for like they essentially would be 2 years of saving up and they'd be able to buy a house. So that's a fucking problem. And like I said before, we have our own problems to deal with. If we can, like MK said when I had her on the show, if we can facilitate our own wealth and build our countries up to where we're prosperous, we can actually then start really trying to help the third world and countries that are impoverished and help educate those people from those impoverished countries and then bring them back to their countries because they stay in our countries rather than going back as that video we showed. Instead of going back to help build their own countries and facilitate a change in their own countries, they stay in the countries that are already civilized and developed. And it's because, guess what? The people and the oligarchs and the bankers and the people that are really controlling everything siphon all the money off the top. They keep taking all this money you send to UNICEF or any cancer research or any like, oh, help this black child in Africa. That all gets taken, man. It all gets taken by some sort of corporation.
Yeah.
This fucks, man. Yeah, like a shoe salesman in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, probably in the 80s could afford a house. A shoe salesman. It's not good, man. And the more people that realize this, hey, we're all in this boat collectively. And like even that Tom McDonald song, where it's like there's all holes in these boats that you guys are all making, and we're all sinking together, but you keep fucking making holes. All right, I'm done. I appreciate everybody that listens and watches the show. Please give us 5-star rating review, share the show, like and comment, subscribe on Rumble, share it, whatever. We'll be posting clips from it. Post your own clips. I've seen people do that where they're sharing stories of like somebody shared a clip from the Clergy playing from the original post. Like this stuff won't come out. A lot of our episodes don't come out in audio when we're doing them live for like literally a month later and stuff like that. So if you're listening on audio now, please support the show. And like I said, this is nothing to do with hatred or racism or whatever, or white supremacy or Nazi, whatever people want to claim and put people in a box for having their own opinions. No, this is about making people aware of situations that will hurt and affect us all as a collective people, as just humanity. You know what I mean? Unzip your pants and plug the holes. So we had a bunch of people that joined us live. So I appreciate you guys showing up. We're shifting into gears. This we won't be doing this for a while. I have other conspiracy type episodes that I definitely want to get into. Like there's a bunch of like the Tavistock Institution. We're talking about stuff like that. Some more Jewish stuff for sure. But like,
and you're going to watch me just absolutely cream my pants when we talk about the Loveland Frogman.
Yeah, I want to do that. We're going to do the Frogman. We're doing me and Billy's next topic because he's finally getting a computer. He's ready to record next Wednesday. Finally.
I love that button.
So yeah, it is exhausting. I know you need some rest from it, but cheers. Yeah. We did 2 long episodes about this and try to expose this as much as we can. But like I said, tons of ideas. Me and Billy will be talking about the Falkville Metal Man. That'll be fun. So we have a bunch of cryptid stuff, true crime. Even the audio listeners still haven't heard our Myra Hindley and Ian Brady episode yet. So the time this comes out, it will definitely be out, but that will be fun for people. We're going to start. Like I still want to do the co-ed killer Edmund Kemper, but I want to do it with you and Billy. So now that he finally has a good working computer, hopefully next week we can finally do this. So I appreciate everybody's support And yeah, thank you for tuning in. And go check out Class Horrorcast, please. If you're into horror movies, check out Class Horrorcast. And if you're on Rumble and you see this before or after, go type in Class Horrorcast on Rumble and support the channel on there, because we're really trying to build the Rumble channel. So
Please do, because I don't even have 30 followers. Please
Yes.
help.
Please
me.
help Aaron. Rumble is like, obviously, you talk about controversial shit, but I feel like we can build up a platform on Rumble for horror content. So please go support Aaron's show. It would help. We'd appreciate it. We do a lot of fun shit on there. So, okay. Stay strange out there, everybody, and please support the show whatever way you can. People are starting to join the Patreon. I've been doing some solo content, but there'll be even more stuff coming. I have ideas. Bye. I'm tired.
Love you all. I'm going to switch
Love you.
everybody off. Beep, beep.